I've been heading to the second-hand store again today because I wanted to find some screens to use for Arduino projects, because I got a cheap Arduino clone recently for building a digital analog hybrid synthesizer. Also had some cheap Bontempi keyboard which I use for the casing and for the keyboard, and actually the digital synthesizer is actually already working. And recently also acquired this really cool Yamaha synthesizer. This is the Yamaha Portasound PSS 570, and it's a FM synth, of course, but it has a unique feature in that you can set your own custom sounds with this digital synthesizer section, as well as custom rhythms. You can customize the automatic melodies generated all sorts of ways. It's a really cool thing. I'm definitely gonna make a video about it, because for a, well, people often describe this thing as a toy keyboard, but aside from the obviously toy keyboard, the functionality is actually really cool, and you can get some really cool sounds out of this. So anyways, for my synthesizer I needed a screen, and well, I got this thing for $2. Hopefully the screen will be any good. Otherwise I have an LCD screen of which I have no documentation, but it only has 6 pins for the data connection, so it is actually quite ideal for using it with Arduino, so it doesn't use that many pins, but you have to figure it out. Anyways, before I completely derail the subject, I also came across this thing, and I thought, wow, 2x16 switches with 8 lights, some knobs, and actually quite a pretty casing as well. This thing is perfect for a sequencer. So, for shits and giggles, I hooked it up to my little variable voltage adapter. The thing needs 13.8 volts, I believe. But it also runs on 12 volts, to my surprise, because it's actually still fully working, it seems. I think this is some sort of radio receiver. There's some description on the bottom here. There, VHF, low and high range, and there it is, 13.8 volts. So I have no experience with radio receivers whatsoever. Frankly, I don't know how to work this thing, but it does work. So let me turn it on. Hearing something this time. So these are, from what I understood, the channel select switches. And essentially what you can do, let me just turn this off here, make it a bit quieter so you can hear me. So there's 8 channels for the low band. These switches are all on the low band and the high band, and switching to the high band you move these switches up, and with these bottom row switches you can select which band you want to use, so or want to scan. So let me close this squelch a little bit. So I noticed when I close this thing up and it goes silent, it goes in some sort of automatic mode. Of course I need to switch it on something else than manual as well. Right here. I'm not sure what 8 plus 8 and 16 means. I think 8 plus 8, it just scans the 8 bands, but you actually have to manually switch between high and low, and 16 is that it scans both the low and the high bands. You can see that when I put it to 16, these 2 LEDs started flickering. Let me put it back to 8 plus 8. There you go, now just I think the one is lighting up. Anyways, so I'm just gonna turn on the bands and you'll see what I mean. So now this one is lighting up. Now activate 2. You see it's scrolling through the 2 bands now. And the blue LED is also blinking, so that means it's in the lowest band. I wonder if I do this. Yeah. So now it scans band 1 in the low range and band 2 in the high range, and it just iterates through them. Now if I narrow the squelch or whatever, you'll see that it will stop at the band it currently has. So let me just activate some more switches. It's a bit easier to make it stop somewhere. See, now it iterates again. This one on low. I'm actually hearing something on 4, so oh yeah, and of course when I put it on 16 mode and when it scans, you'll notice that these lights alternate, and the blue one means low range and the red one means high range. From what I understood, I might be completely wrong, but that's sort of what it says on the panel, so I'm just kind of going with that. So I'm gonna put it on manual. And close all the other channels. You see it automatically switches to the next one. You can actually switch between channels by pressing the little channel select here. See? You can iterate through. So I want to put it on channel 4, so I'm just going to activate channel 4 and rotate the squelch knob, whatever squelch means. I'm definitely hearing something there. Yeah, there's also a knob to dim the light. Ah, it's just a beep. So I'm very vaguely receiving something on channel 4. That's actually quite funny. The antenna of this thing is actually broken. So maybe if I connect something to there, it would work better. But well, again, I don't really intend to use this as as what it's meant to be used as. Let's also take a look at the back. So on the back we have a couple of things. We have an external antenna connector, some switch, which I assume switches between the built-in antenna and the external one. There is something called, let's see, ext.sp. No idea what that means, but it's a little jack, fuse, and we have this switch here. Off and ISEC delay. Also no idea what that is. I'd have to Google all that. Again, I have no knowledge and experience whatsoever regarding these kind of receivers. And of course there's the 2 power supply options, which is interesting, 220 volts and the 13.8 volt. So I think that's pretty much everything. There's some knobs on the side here, which I assume are for a carrying handle of sorts. So you can put such a thing on there. You can carry it around if you want to. Obviously you need some battery. That outputs 13.8 volts. So yeah, that's interesting little creature. So I guess we'll open it up, see what's inside. And yeah, well, obviously I'm gonna take it apart, pull out the electronics. It's a bit of a pity because it is still fully working as far as I can tell. I kinda hate taking apart fully working things, because it also always feels kinda bit of like a waste, but oh well, enough talking. It's screwdriver time. Excuse the complete mess that is my desk, as I've been working on a synthesizer. But let's open this thing up. Ta-da! Okay. So, right off the bat, I see 3 PCBs. Let's see what's on the other side, I say. Oh, some nice switches here. Ah, and this is really good news. Let me just grab the camera. This is really good news. Look at this. The switches are all screwed to the front plate. And I was afraid that they were connected to a PCB and that way they were held in place. But they are not. They're all mounted to the front panel, which means I can take out the electronics and leave all the controls on there. This thing is just perfect for a sequencer and also very out of focus. What the hell, camera? This is an interesting little detail. The switches, instead of being attached to one bus bar or one wire, actually all connect to this trace on the PCB. So it's easier to desolder them now and to reuse them the way I want. Although I do see a wire going here. Yeah, this is what I mean actually. This wire going here is actually such a bus wire. Looks like someone had a hack at this. There's been some soldering action going on here. And a bit of a shoddy job. Oh well, gonna take it apart anyways. And I guess it works. I didn't have any luck with the getting the PCBs to move really, but I noticed that on the other side there wasn't actually anything obstructing the way to the PCBs, and there we go. This is a much better view of everything. Oh wow, that looks really cool. So we have a little speaker as well. This is probably the dozenth speaker that I have now, but I suppose I can use them at some point. Where's my clippy clip? There it is. I'm just gonna... Oh, this is interesting. The speaker actually connects to this little mini jack on the back here, and that connects to a capacitor and it goes to the board. So I think that's actually the direct audio output. So that's a some sort of weird line out, I assume. Anyways, let's just clip these wires. So, because we're not opening this thing up to fix it or to use it. There we go. Okay. So there's a little data board here, which is, interestingly enough, soldered straight to the chassis. Now I assume, let me zoom out, that this is also to protect the electronics from interference, because the fake wooden case around it actually doesn't seem to have any ground connections otherwise, and it's also coated with that fake wood stuff, and well, so I guess they decided to have an extra casing on the inside to provide at least, well, a minimal amount of shielding really, and of course it makes the thing a bit tougher. Yes. Okay, so anyways, rather interesting construction, I will say. Let's see here. So let me turn it around. So here we have our 220 volt fuse, which is on a little standoff. Of course, the power supply transformer connected to yet another fuse here, which is interesting. Wait, is this the 220 volt fuse? 1 ampere fuse, and that goes to the board here. Yeah, well, it seems they used. Seems they needed some extra protection. Interesting. Okay. So this is the power supply section. Here is our 13.8 volt external power supply connection. So I'm gonna assume that this power supply, this internal one, also generates the 13.8 volt. That might actually be useful for DIY projects. Now this is interesting. I'll try to zoom in on this section here. Okay, so zoomed in on the other PCB, I noticed that these are, I think, crystal oscillators. See what it says. Oh no, they're coils. This one is 83 Henry. I'm not sure if you can see this. So, and these are all socketed. So that's interesting. Now again, I'm no expert on these devices, but looking at how this is structured, I'd guess that this is some sort of tuning circuit. There's also a lot of other coils on here, as you can see, and some capacitors. So that's usually a typical indication of a tuner circuit. Again, I could be wrong. Oh, there's a big coil on the external antenna connection as well. So here we have the external antenna connection, and there's a big coil attached to it, going over it, and then goes through this black wire that's hidden here and all the way to the other board. Yes, and I see some power transistors there as well. So this board here is the tuning board. So it's completely dedicated to tuning to the right frequency. What the hell is going on with my camera? There we go. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what was happening there, but my... Yeah, there it goes again. My screen went all wibbly. Wibbly wobbly timey wimey. Okay, it's back to normal again. Oh dear. Hope this isn't the issue with my camera. If it is, well, no videos for a while, I'm afraid. So this board is the tuner to tune to the 8 bands. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 in here. Oh wait, we have 16 bands. These are 14 in total. Oh wait, there's an empty socket here. I didn't see that. So that's 8, and this is 8, and that's 16 channels. Interestingly though, they're not all socketed. Not all sockets are filled, so I wonder if those components are missing. Might as well be, because I bought this thing second hand. So Okay, let's zoom out further. Let's just look to the other side. So here's our fuse. This is the standard antenna connection. You can see this one. This is a very big potentiometer, very big variable resistor. The other variable resistor is right here. It's actually a small one, and that one also has a built-in power switch, so that's actually going to be really handy, probably for something. See what else kind of special things I see. Let's see if we can move this to here. Can we see this? So big capacitor here. All electrolytics as well. Let's see what kind of brand they are. Can't really see. They're made in Japan, that's for sure. CMW? Yeah, CMW. No idea who they are, really. So many more tuning coils. These can all be adjusted, as you can see, to tune the circuit further. Again, this is a radio circuit, so always a lot of tuning coils in those circuits and a lot of capacitors. I think I see a tiny little inline package right here. It's absolutely tiny. And well, there's some power transistors, I think, hidden here. Might also be voltage regulators, since this is the power supply area right here. Well, what else is there to see? Well, let's move on to the next section, I guess. So this section here, and I can just bend this little board to the side here, so we can also take a look at that one. So this is all connected to the front panel, this board here. There is some ICs, let's see. So the three ICs here, the two 7400Ns are quad NAND gate, and the 7402 is a quad NOR gate, I believe. So this will be useful for building projects. Logic gates are always useful, and I believe with NAND gates you can create some interesting audio stuff, and I believe you can also use them for oscillators. So well, I guess I'll have to experiment with some circuits with these three ICs here. So a little TO3 package here, which might be a germanium transistor. It's a bit hard to see. I think I see three legs. So can't see the type from here. It's really hard to read, so I have to desolder it first. Let's see. Well, and we have a bunch of transistors which seem to connect to the tuner board, and there's actually a lot of text on the tuner board, so that we're going to take a look at that in a second. But these wires here connect to the tuner board and go to the transistors, either the collector or the emitter, or it might actually be the base, depends on the type of transistor. And the switches are all connected with diodes, I see. That's interesting. So I'm gonna have a whole bunch of diodes right here. Adjust my camera a little. There we go. There we go. A whole bunch of diodes all attached to the switches. So there's definitely some switching buffering going on there, and there's also lots of hair and dust in here. Interesting. So yeah, again, everything is mounted to the panel. So that's gonna save me a lot of time and effort. So I can just desolder all this and be done with it. I see that the lights are actually connected to the switches. Those who want to take a better look at the tuner boards with the text, we have the text black and white for the connections. Here, it says here high band, so that's this one. You see it's numbered 1 to 8. And this is the low band right here, also numbered 1 to 8. Bunch of diodes, 2.2K resistors, and there's also some text here. No, that's just the colors of the wires again. And some other indicators for the little coils, L8, L5, L4, etc. Now these coils, I think I can actually use for an EQ. Now that's interesting. So that's a Wolfson VHF radio receiver on the inside.